He dumped me on my wedding day. Do you take Arrey Justine to be your lawful husband? Before the priest could finish his words, I already said I do. I had been waiting for this day for 3 years and there was no other answer I could give. However, when he turned to Justine and asked, "Do you take Ayuk Mary to be your wife?" Justine hesitated and kept quiet. I looked at him, thinking he was so overwhelmed with joy like me and was so nervous to say something. With a smiling face, I held his hands and told him to say something. In the blink of an eye, he let go of my hands and said, "I do not." This answer was so unexpected that I thought he had made a mistake or that I did not hear him well. But he insisted, "I do not want to marry Miss Ayuk Mary." When it dawned on me that he really said these words, I was so shocked that I could say no other word. I looked at him with watery eyes filled with questions of why he refused to marry me. Why did he wait for the wedding day to do so? What had happened to the man who recited love poem to me 2 days earlier? In the midst of these questions, Justine left me at the altar and proceeded out of the church. I stood there all shocked and embarrassed. It was 1 hour later that I got up in my room and realized I had fainted when Justine left. Unable to conceal the pain, I cried out loud, and my parents and bridesmaid, who had been discussing and cursing him in the sitting room, came over to comfort me. No matter how I thought about it, I could not see anything wrong between both of us that could cause such an abrupt breakup. I called him severally to ask for an explanation. He refused to pick my calls and eventually switched off the phone. 2 years had passed since that incident, and here was I living somewhat a comfortable life. I had a job, an ever-supporting family and friends who loved me. Everything had changed except for my mind. I was still curious to know why he left me. After the event, I followed news about him to see if he would settle with another lady in a few months so I could blame our breakup on that. However, for the first year, I found out he wasn't with any other lady, but yet chose to break up with me. I finally gave up on the search and decided to move on. Though I have been able to stop whatever feelings I had for him, we haven't yet had a close on this chapter. I was waiting for my sister in front of a shopping mall when he appeared before me. Normally, I would have walked past as an ex, as if I had not seen him, but this time I did not. I stood staring at him as if I was in a trance. A passerby would think that I was admiring or longing for him, but I stood there because I wanted to take the opportunity to discuss with him and to pour out my anger and force him to speak. Surprisingly, he did not try to walk past me. Rather, he stared at me as well, and his eyes soon watered. He asked how I was. He also asked about my parents and siblings, to which I gave a positive answer. I asked for a few minutes with him at the cafe that was nearby, a request he hesitantly granted. Once we were at the cafe, I went straight to the point and asked why he dumped me on the wedding day. I explained that this wasn't because I wanted a reconciliation, but that I wanted a close. I explained that he had the right to break up with me, but it was baffling that he waited for 3 good years to disgrace me on that day. We invited over 1,000 guests to witness our wedding. In actual fact, it wasn't the disgrace I initially cared about. I first wept for losing the guy I loved, but after giving up those feelings, I began to think about how embarrassing that was. Justine, in his normal charming voice, told me he did not have the intention to disgrace me, but that he did it for my good. He explained that spending the rest of his life with me would have made him the happiest man on earth, but he knew that if I am not happy to be with him, he will not be happy either. At this moment, I was confused and asked him what would have made me unhappy had we gotten married. He stood up, looked through the window, and after a few seconds of silence, he told me that I did not need to hide it from him. He said that at the eve of our wedding, he had